What's up, everybody? Welcome to Philly with Jon Marks on PHLY, as always, presented by Bet Parks and Central City Toyota as we enter. It's not even free agency yet. Free agency doesn't start till tomorrow. This is the tampering period. Free agency started. Guys can't officially ink the contracts, but they're being signed, sealed, and soon to be delivered. And the Eagles are being poached, as many of us expected. Shout out to everybody watching live on YouTube. Good morning. It's Tuesday morning. If you're listening later on in the day on the audio podcast, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Just subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff. And if you're watching on TV, Xfinity, Roku, Samsung Plus, good morning. Hello, whenever you're watching, what is up? The NFL is what I always believe, and I love the Phillies more than I love Major League Baseball. I hate the Sixers, and like the NBA is fine. And in hockey, I'm very much a bandwagon fan, a Sam Boner, as some people would say. But with the NFL, free agency and the draft is like another sport. You have the season, and then you have the off season. And I'll take the offseason over anything, really, except for the Phillies in its own entity. But the offseason is awesome. And every offseason is a little bit different, right? You get some offseason. Remember Chip Kelly when he was in Philly and they went out and they overspent and had a terrible signing of Byron Maxwell or like Ryan Matthews was free agency. The Dallas running back that I can't remember his name right now, he was a free agent. So normally, I always believe this. If you have a ton of money to spend, you're going to go out there and spend it. But you also don't have many good players on your team because otherwise you're needing to re-sign your own players. For all the crap that the Cowboys take, and they should get crap, they also don't have a lot of cap space because, well, Jared doesn't want to fit the big bill, but they have a lot of their own good players that they're re-signing, right? So I never believe the way to win is in free agency. The way to win is to fill in the holes in free agency, like Saquon Barkley. That was a great value. That's also a luxury when you have your offense already finished, your offensive line already finished, your defense has young players on it. You're not paying a ton of people on defense, so you can afford that. But this year's free agency for the Eagles was always going to be much different. And I think, and I hope most Eagles fans had their expectations managed going into this process, right? Like if you thought that Milton Williams and Josh Sweat and everybody was coming back, then you weren't looking at it correctly, right? Like Milton Williams was never coming back. He outpriced himself when he had 2 sacks in the Super Bowl. He was never coming back. The Eagles tried extending him last offseason, and he said no. And I remember the conversation, and I was like, yeah, if I was him, I'd probably say no as well, even though he's, like, I don't know what the offer was. But still, like, why not bet on yourself and play it out? Well, damn. Did he bet on himself and ride it out? $63 million. So Milton Williams' contract with the Patriots, 4 years, $104 million, $63 million guaranteed, is the largest salary as far as average annual salary the Patriots have ever given out. This is franchise history type money. Milton Williams is a good player. I would have loved to have Milton Williams come back. I'm very happy to see him get this bag and the Brinks truck and everything else up in New England. And New England's not getting there's no potential bust here. This isn't a bust player. But is he an above average player as opposed to an emerging star? And I think he's minimum above average player. Is he a Pro Bowler? I would bet no, but I'm not so sure of that. He's a good player. He's a good player, still young, still with room to grow. So I don't think it's a terrible signing by the Patriots because they have money. It's a bust-free pick. We'll see how good he actually is. He's only been a rotational player, Milton Williams. But that wasn't a surprise. Nobody should have been surprised about that. Josh Sweat going to the Cardinals. 4 years, $76 million, $41 million guaranteed. Right around $20 million a year. Like, no surprise at all. Jonathan Gannon, his own old homeboy, former defensive coordinator. They have a need. The Cardinals have a lot of money. So they spend, and the Eagles have to now replace these guys. This is 100% expected. I didn't hear many people out there say that they thought Sweat or Milton Williams was going to be back. Now, Isaiah Rodgers signing with Minnesota, I wasn't sure what to think of Isaiah Rodgers, just because when he played last year, he was good, I guess. He was fine. I wasn't overly impressed with him, and I think it's pretty clear the Eagles weren't overly impressed with him either. Otherwise, you probably sign him here. But he gets a good amount of guaranteed money for a guy that is coming off of a year being suspended for gambling. 2 years, $15 million, $8 million guaranteed. So essentially, it's a 1 year guarantee. He's going to get a crack at being the starting corner. If he's not, he's going to get cut after a year. I think it's a good signing by the Vikings. He has some upside. He has started in this league before when he was with the Colts. And for the Eagles, if you don't see him as a potential starter, then you don't sign him. And they let him walk. And I think that is, again, one of these situations where, I had no expectations of Isaiah Rodgers coming back or not, because I didn't know what his market was going to be. I didn't know if the Eagles liked him. The Eagles didn't like him enough to give him $8 million guaranteed. So he's gone. Darius Slay, could he be gone? Now, yesterday it looked like for a while he was gone. Jordan Schultz of wherever he's working for said that the Steelers were signing him. So now everybody's saying, oh, well, now Keely Ringo's going to be your starter. Slay didn't sign yet. And it came out later by a couple of the plugged-in insiders that a deal is not done with the Steelers and Darius Slay. So I wonder, because if you remember last year, it looked like that Slay was going to the Ravens. I think fans were kind of mean to him, too. They couldn't wait to see him leave. Or was that 2 years ago? 2 years ago. And so it's like, all right, Slay, see you. Don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out. And then as legend goes, or as the story goes, Big Dom gave Slay a call. And Slay reconsidered and went back to Philly. I'm wondering if Big Dom didn't make another call to Darius Slay yesterday and say, hey, hang on a second, bro. What are we doing here? Let's get you a little bit more money. Because Dom's just not security. He's like a broker. He's taking care of business behind the scenes, right? And I'll be honest, of all the moves that I'd like to see, I'm totally fine with Rodgers going. I'm totally fine with Milton Williams and Sweat going. I'm totally fine with Becton going. All right, I hope he goes and gets his bag too. He has not been signed yet. But I want Slay back for another year. I think this defense is significantly better with Darius Slay as your starting cornerback. Keely Ringo might be a good prospect. I don't need him to be a starter right now. He can take another year of seasoning, and he can be the first guy off the bench. He can be your fourth corner, right? Like Cooper DeJean, love him. I love him in the hybrid role of playing all over the place. Can't argue with the results from last year. So if he needs to be your starting corner some of the time, okay. If Slay leaves, you're going to have to deal with it, and ultimately the Eagles will be fine. But are they a better team with one more year Darius Slay? I believe they are. So I'm very interested in the early talk of he's signing with the Steelers turning into, oh, he's not signed yet. Could he come back to the Eagles? And Slay already told you, if all else is equal, he wants to come back here. He didn't want to leave. But money, I'm not even going to say ego, but pride. If you're not getting what you think you deserve, you want to go out and see like, all right, then cut me. Actually, I think the Eagles would have to trade him, or they could. They still hold his contract. So they would have to trade him possibly if he goes anywhere. All right. So the real question is, what do we do from here? What do the Eagles do from here? Fran Duffy's coming up about 16 minutes from now, 8:25 if you're watching live. We will discuss with him because they do have internal replacements. They're going to need to sign some guys, and then they're going to need to restock in the draft. Oh, by the way, Oren Burks, who I thought showed real potential late in the season and then again in the Super Bowl. He signs with Cincinnati, which, again, it's a 2-year, $5 million contract, but it's also an opportunity to start. So he gets a good contract for a guy that was a special teamer, and he gets an opportunity to start with Cincinnati. That's a high-profile team with a high-profile offense, a new defensive coordinator coming in here in former Temple coach Al Golden. So I like that for Oren Burks, and I'm honestly more disappointed Oren Burks isn't back than really any of the other players. And I want Slay back too. Oh, and then I'm almost burying the lead here because it was a trade. Oh, the Kenny Pickett era in Philadelphia is over. What's your favorite memory of Kenny Pickett as a Philadelphia Eagle? traded to the Cleveland Browns for a 5th-round pick and Dorian Thompson-Robinson, their backup quarterback. So you get a 5th. You get a guy that will be the 3rd quarterback or maybe the practice squad quarterback, depending on how the Eagles are going to shape their roster. And Kenny Pickett goes to possibly be a placeholder for a rookie or to compete for the job or whatever. And I shouldn't be mean to Kenny Pickett. There's no reason for me to be. He's a semi-local guy, and he grew up an Eagles fan. And whenever he played, I didn't want to see him play. When he played with the Steelers, I loved seeing him play because I thought he was terrible. And he's not terrible. He's a decent backup. So Kenny Pickett goes, which really means Tanner McKee, and I think it was pretty clear to everybody that follows the Eagles, Tanner McKee's the better quarterback. So now he is your new backup. And DTR, as we'll know him, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, he does have some experience. He has started. He has made starts for the Browns. He also has 1 touchdown and 10 interceptions in his NFL career. So keep that in mind. Could he be the 3rd quarterback? Absolutely. Could it be a cut? Absolutely. You got a 5th-round draft pick. Tanner McKee's ready to be the backup. And I don't have to see Kenny Pickett play for the Eagles anymore. As far as I'm concerned, that was a great trade. This portion of the program brought to you by Glatt Hair Restoration. GlattHairMM.com. 610-980-4000. Brianna Savarino is producing this morning as Tyler is on paternity leave all week. She got to see me styling my hair this morning right before going on camera. I said, all right, I got to take my hair. I wear headphones, but you got to get the top. Got to get the front looking good here because of Glatt hair. If I'm talking about how great they are, my hair has to look great, right? GlattHairMM.com. All right, so I saw a lot of people complaining about Eagles fans complaining about Howie Roseman and what the Eagles are doing so far in free agency. In fact, I saw many more people complaining about people complaining than actually people complaining. Does that make any sense at all? I tweeted that out last night. Because maybe there's there's 5 people I saw on social media that were saying, all right, Howie, what the hell are you doing? You can't let all these guys leave. Maybe I saw a couple of people like that, or maybe a couple people that just like to be involved, that don't like seeing the Eagles in every headline losing players rather than gaining players. Of course, it's fun when your team's making moves, and then when they traded Pickett, it was like, yeah, now we got some moves to make. But it comes with being a great team, and he's not only a Super Bowl winner, they've been to 2 or 3, which means their roster's stacked. This roster's stacked. So my takeaway from yesterday, my biggest takeaway from yesterday is, holy hell, the Eagles are going to have to pay a lot of money to these young players, right? If Milton Williams is worth $26 million this year, what the hell is Jalen Carter worth in 2 years or 3 years? What is Jordan Davis going to be worth if the Eagles decide that they're going to extend him? You know, like, I was always under the impression that Jordan Davis was coming back because he hasn't been a bust, and he still has the potential. He needs to show it. But if you're going to be paying a defensive lineman almost $30 million a year, a defensive tackle, he better have a major impact. So, like Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, they're entering their 2nd year, so I'm not as worried. You're not worried about them yet. But it does give you the overall scope of like, holy crap, man, everybody's making so much money out there. Not just quarterbacks anymore, everybody. Wide receivers are going to make $30+ million a year. Running backs have entered $20+ million a year. Offensive linemen are $20 and $30 million a year. Everybody's making money because the NFL is such a cash cow. And they're not making less money every year. They're only finding additional revenue streams, locally and nationally. So NFL teams pay. And when you have money in free agency under the salary cap and you're a bad team, like the Patriots, the Cardinals had some money to spend, like, you go out there and you spend because you need players to make your fans excited. The Patriots stink. Bad organizations and bad franchises and bad teams like the Patriots and the Cardinals are the ones that go out and get Josh Sweat or Milton Williams. Josh Sweat signing with the team isn't a bad signing. It's the fact that you're in a position that you need to pay that much money to get a defensive end that best case scenario is an above average player, right? You need to draft those guys. And that's what makes the Eagles such a dangerous team right now is they've drafted all these young players and then they've signed the other guys too, made good trades, made really good value signings. I mean, hell, Zach Bond was $1.5 million last year for Howie Roseman and turned into one of the top 5 or 6 defensive players in the league, at least last year. Now you have to pay him and you resign him, but think about the impact that he had on this defense last year. Huge impact, right? So keep that in mind. Now, when you don't draft well and you don't make good free agent signings, you know what you have to do then? Now you're desperate, and that's when you go out on the free agent market and you have to overpay and overspend. And the Eagles did that, if you remember, post-Super Bowl. And with Chip Kelly and with some of those bad teams, they were missing on draft picks. They were missing in free agent signings. Now you're desperate to try to fill in holes, and you're trying to spend money as opposed to now you have guys that need to step up. So you look at Sweat leaving, and you look at Milton Williams leaving. Well, listen, Ojimo is a guy that is ready to step up. And he played just as many snaps almost last year as Jordan Davis. I think they actually paid the same amount of snaps. So it's like, okay, this is a Super Bowl team. You can't afford to. I know a lot of people say like, all right, well, like, yeah, you can afford to let these guys go because they're making a ton of money. But if they don't find a replacement, an adequate replacement, whether it's going out and getting somebody or having somebody within your system, then yeah, like this Eagles team is in the window to win Super Bowls, not just a Super Bowl. So if you have drop off, that's how you don't make it back to another Super Bowl. That's how you don't win another Super Bowl. You need these guys to step in. So Jalix Hunt, who you saw great promise from last year as a rookie, he's going to need to step up with more snaps, right? I mentioned Ojimo. Keely Ringo, if they don't bring Slay back, but regardless, he's going to have to step in and be a major contributor. How about Trot Jr.? So Burks leaves. We know Nakobe Dean is still injured or isn't likely to start the season healthy, which who knows when he's going to be back and what it's going to look like when he comes back. So Trot Jr. is going to have to step up. They're going to sign a veteran linebacker, I'm sure, but this is an opportunity for these young guys. Like this is what Milton Williams did. Javon Hargrave leaves. Milton Williams steps into a rotation, right? They draft a couple of first-round players, but Milton Williams, like, listen, he could have just said, hey, I'm a rotational player. I'll get $5 million a year. This dude balled out and had the biggest season and his biggest games and the biggest times this season, and it paid off. So now you have Jalix Hunt, got to step up. Keely Ringo, got to step up. Am I the only person that isn't thinking right now, like, hey, Bryce Huff, it's not crazy to think Bryce Huff can step up and be a contributor next year. I know he sucked this year. He was a 0. He was his jersey number this year, but he was a good player with the Jets. Howie, the GM of the world, he picked him. He said, no, this is a good player. It was a terrible first year. I'm not telling you that I'm not telling you there's a better chance that he has 8 sacks this year than he has 2 sacks this year. What I'm telling you is that the potential's been there before. Now with the Eagles coming off the Super Bowl and having great players on that line, he's going to need to step up. And the pressure perhaps isn't there like it was, or maybe the internal pressure from Huff last year saying like, hey, I got to step in, and he didn't do it. So he comes back healthy. You say, listen, we just need you to get to the quarterback. You have Jalen Carter, you have Jordan Davis, you have Nolan Smith, you have Hunt. You're going to be a part of the rotation. Just get him pass rushing snaps and get him in there on the quarterback. Pin the ears back, as the draft analysts like to say and the football guys like to say. All right, it's Philly with Jon Marks on this free agency frenzy Tuesday. They got poached. The Eagles got poached yesterday, and that's something that you should be looking at and be happy about, because you know what? That's what happens to good teams. You can't afford to pay all your players, especially when, like I said, they're going to have to pay Jalen Carter. They're going to have to pay Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean and all these other great young players that they have. And they need to now replenish the system with all these draft picks. If they whiff on the draft, if they don't draft at least starters or contributors in those middle rounds, it's going to be tough. And that's where you're getting a Milton Williams and a Josh Sweat and those type of players. All right, Fran the man with the master plan, Fran Duffy. I saw there's a draft show today at 12 o'clock, and then the Eagles guys, PHLY Eagles guys, will be on the case again. Live reaction to everything that's going on in NFL free agency. So we'll talk to Fran coming up here in a couple minutes. Really curious to what he thinks about the moves that were made as far as how good of a player Milton Williams is, but what the replacements look like internally, and if there are some players out there that the Eagles can sign. I'd love to see Hargrave come back. He's more of a pass rusher than a run stuffer. Next to Jalen Carter, if he stays healthy, he could easily have double-digit sacks. I'd love to get Hargrave back. I wonder what his market is. That could be a good move. Good move. It could happen. We'll talk to him coming up right after this. Philly with Jon Marks back at 2-2. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere, please. All right, thank you. And I'm a little bit off-centered here. I have my camera, and I put my hand up like talking, and so it changes the setting so it'll move around a little bit. Anyway, Central City Toyota. We got to get Uncle Jamie on this week. Got to get him on this week. CentralCityToyota.com, all the inventory from not only Central City Toyota, which is certified Toyotas and new Toyotas, an amazing selection. Also, Ardmore Toyota. Everything they have up there. But the reason you go to Central City Toyota is family. It's my Uncle Jamie. He's been at Central City Toyota for 30 years, over 30 years now, in the heart of University City, 55 years on Chestnut Street. Yeah, Jamie's been there over half of their existence, which is a long time. But you go in there because they're a well-run business. You've been in the car business for 55 years on Chestnut, same place. It means you know what you're doing. And my Uncle Jamie, the general manager, like, you just bust in the door, kick open the door, be like, "Where's Uncle Jamie?" But service and parts, largest parts and service dealership in the entire city of Philadelphia. And maybe you're saying, like, "All right, Marks, I got you, but I live up where you do in Collegeville. I live in Jersey. I live here. I live there." If you're working in the Center City area, right? Maybe you're West Philly, University City, maybe even up in Ballackinwood, Center City. You always need your car serviced, right? And it's never fun to go sit at a dealership on a Saturday afternoon and drink bad coffee and look at your phone until there's nothing else left to read. And you're like, "Damn, isn't my car done yet?" You can actually schedule an appointment at CentralCityToyota.com. They will come and grab your car, take it back to the dealership, service, repair, whatever you're looking for, drop it back off. It's like it didn't happen. It's like when you have a colonoscopy and you get put out, you wake up and you're like, "Oh, that wasn't too bad," right? That's essentially what they're doing for you at CentralCityToyota.com. Don't waste time. And again, it's my Uncle Jamie. Anything you need, literally, you can just go in the dealership and say, "I want to talk to Uncle Jamie," and he will come down and speak to you. CentralCityToyota.com. Check him out. CentralCityToyota.com. All right. I was mentioning my hair earlier. Yes, I had to make sure it was styled perfectly. Because Glad Hair Restoration by Morgenstern Medical, you can't lie. You can't fake the results. Even though Instagram and Facebook ads, they try. They'll get some guy goes up there and is like, "Oh yeah, look at he's a huge afro." They just show him spraying the spray. Like, "Hold on, where's the before picture? You being bald, you having a receding hairline." That doesn't exist. But I have the before and after picture, right? Thank you, Bree. There's the before. Listen, I'm handsome, but my head's shaved. Look at that. Look at the receding hairline. And then after. And I know that this is taken like 12 years ago, right after I got married, or 10 years ago, right after I got married. But the point is, look at the before and after. Look at the receding hairline before. Look at the after. Amazing. So now fast forward 12 years ago. If I was receding that bad, what would it look like right now, right? I would probably have a shaved head. I would hate it if I was shaving my head back then. What would I do right now? Most experience and most success when it comes to hair restoration. That's all they do is hair, and they're the experts in the industry. So if you want more before and after pictures, check out really everything that they do. GladHairMM.com is their website. GladHairMM.com. Or if you want to talk to their hair team, 610-980-4000, 610-980-4000. You can also text that number, 610-980-4000. And last thing, you can also reach out to me. If you want to see, I have pictures of the day of the procedure, a couple days after, a week after, or you just maybe want more information, or I can even hand you off to the hair team and give you an introduction so you're not just calling cold. Just reach out to me. My DMs are wide open. JONMARKS Media at Jon Marks Media at gmail.com. All right, there we go. Thank you very much. Fran's going to join us coming up here in a second. You know, like, I leave free agency not disappointed at all after the first day. Not disappointed at all. You had to know this was coming. So a couple of the people out there that you see that are like, what the hell's Howie doing or whatever, I don't know how you thought anything but this was happening. Now, is Becton coming back? I don't expect him to come back. We'll see what Fran has to say about that in a second. I don't expect him to come back. If he comes back, I think it's because the market isn't there. And the fact that he hasn't signed already tells you that the asking price they were looking for wasn't met. So maybe that happens today. Maybe that happens early. The longer it goes without him signing, the better chance it is of him coming back to the Eagles. But when you have to pay everybody else on the offensive line, when you have to pay Jalen Carter, when you have to pay everybody, you have to let good players leave. And what Howie Roseman needs to do is find the next Mekhi Becton, just like he did this year. Maybe it's a draft pick. Maybe it's another veteran that wants to come here to discuss all of that. He's not only an NFL draft expert, but he's an NFL analyst and an Eagles insider. His name is Fran Duffy, and he joins us right now. Hello, Fran.
Johnny Marks, what's happening, man?
So here I'm ranking my favorite sports in order. Okay. 1 NFL, 2 NFL offseason, 3 college football. Your thoughts?
I'm with you. You're getting no argument on that order from me. I think that the NFL has certainly made it their business to be a 12-month out of the year sport. And weeks like this are a great example of why.
Any surprise that Milton Williams and Josh Sweat go and get the big money contracts?
No, not at all. I think that, look, I got closer and closer to free agency. It was pretty clear that Milton Williams was going to be priced out of the Eagles' range, that he was going to be one of the highest demand free agents on the open market. Josh Sweat, I think that ship kind of sailed. I mean, the writing was on the wall, even just coming into the year, regardless of how productive he was. It just felt like it got a little bit messy last year when they gave him that permission to be able to seek a trade, and they reworked the short-term deal on basically a prove-it contract for Josh Sweat. So that one, I anticipated that one had kind of run its course. With Milton, that was always one where in an ideal scenario, yeah, he's back in Philadelphia. I think if you look back at his career, this is exactly the kind of player that the Eagles would historically re-sign. And in 9 out of 10 different realities, he probably is here for a second contract. But when you go and you get Jalen Carter, you get a young talent like Moro Ojomo. It looks like you hit on that with a late day 3 pick. You have Jordan Davis already in tow. So that you had all of these other assets along the defensive front. They were on the interior that were able to hit. So I think at the end of the day, Milton Williams is just a good player that falls through the cracks. And I think ideally they would have loved to have him back, but just priced out of their range.
Yeah, I mean, all indications are they talked to him about an extension, and he said, "Nah, I'll bet on myself," and it's a good bet, man. He 2 sacks in the Super Bowl. He's a good player. Now, he played 47% of the snaps. So you have Jalen Carter that's pretty much out there all the time, and then you had Milton 47. Jordan Davis and Ojomo both were 37% of the snaps. So the question is, Milton Williams going up to New England, he's obviously going to be, I would think, more of a snap contributor up there, but is he really a 60% snap guy? Because that's what you're paying for. You're not paying for a rotational player with the largest average annual contract in Patriots history. You're playing for a guy that's going to be out there all the time. Do you think he's that kind of player?
I do. I think when you look at Milton Williams, I think a lot of the things that get said about a player when he is that limited snap share guy is that, oh, well, he's only a run defender or he's only a pass rusher, right? People would say the same thing about Osa Odigizua, who the Cowboys just gave $20 million to. Milton Williams is tiers ahead of Odigizua as a run defender. I mean, he is that's honestly how he first popped on film here as a rookie, was his ability to play at the point of attack. He's so violent in the run game. He's a good tackler. He's really strong. So I think when you show Milton Williams, he's got that upfield penetration skill set. He's got that explosive first step, but he's also a really strong run defender as well. He's exactly the type of player, like, honestly, again, in a bizarro world, right? If he was on the open market and the Eagles had money, that he's the type of player that they would try and make a bet on, right? It's just that it just did not work out here in Philly from that standpoint, just because of how things laid out, like I said earlier. But to me, that this is a good bet by the Patriots. He absolutely has a 3-down skill set. Now, does he live up to being the third highest APY of any defensive tackle in football? Is he quite that level? No, but again, that's the price of doing business once you get into free agency.
Yeah, he's Pro Bowl potential. I think
Yes.
he is definitely one, because right now he's Pro Bowl potential. So yeah, I agree with you. I think he's ready for that next step. I'm happy for him. I'm excited to see
No doubt.
what he does up in New England. Now, you mentioned Ojimo, so and we'll work our way down the line here. So Jordan Davis, and the question now is, well, how do you replace those snaps? Well, they're going to have to sign a veteran and draft a guy, but I think you have two internal candidates. Like Jordan Davis has entered the portion of his NFL career where if he wants this fifth-year option picked up and he wants to get extended, and you see what the defensive tackles are making, Fran, I mean, geez, now's the time he has to be more than a rotational run stuffer. He's got to be playing about half the snaps. He's got to have the fitness to be out there. He's so big and athletic. He's got to get more pressure on the quarterback. Do you think that is what you're going to see this year out of? And listen, Ojimo's a third-year player, or a third-day draft player. But like, is Jordan Davis ready for that next step to where he steps up and he becomes the guy that actually we saw Milton Williams be last year?
Yeah, I think that's the ideal scenario, right? And then, well, we were talking about this yesterday on the PHLY Eagle show when we were live for 3.5 hours, 4 hours, whatever it was, and it was talking about Jordan Davis, and Bo Wolf brought up the point that, you know what, this is the guy where more than anyone else in that building, you'd love to be able to give Vic Fangio, Nick Sirianni, Howie Roseman, truth serum, and say, like, what are your ultimate plans for this player? How do you view the next, we'll say, 48 months going for Jordan Davis on the field, right? Because, you know, my guess is that he's probably not going to get that fifth-year option picked up on him this offseason. That would be my guess as we sit here. Now, you mentioned a lot of the money getting thrown around at defensive tackle. There's a chance that they still might view that as value to be able to pick him up on that fifth-year option. That said, I just think that this might be a good motivating tactic for Davis to say, hey, you know what? Like, we're not going to pick up the option. We hope that you play up to your potential, and then we can give you that money. We want to be able to extend you. I still think even if they don't pick up that option, that there's a pretty good chance that they do still extend Jordan Davis at one of those medium-tier contract levels for that spot. That said, I think of what you want to see. Look, we saw 2 sacks from him in the postseason, 1 in the Super Bowl. He still is certainly not the type of player that is worthy of playing on third down, on passing downs on a consistent basis. And even in the run game, he's got dominant snaps. He has dominant stretches of games, but he's not a consistently dominant player, right? We're not seeing the Vita Vea, the Dexter Lawrence, where it's just like, yeah, put him out there on rundowns, and you're not going to be able to run on him consistently. There are still times where it's just like, man, you just want a little bit more. It's not that he can't get there, but you're just hoping that he could take that next step, and clearly the Eagles are hoping for that.
All right, quick answer on the defensive ends. Jalix Hunts now steps up. Bryce Huff is going to have to come back, and he's going to have to be more of a contributor than he was last year. I don't know if he's going to live up to $17 million a year, but he can't be a bust this year, or the Eagles could be in trouble. Defensive end, give me a name or two that they could target in free agency, and how do you view the position right now?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those names that we kind of penciled in as potential, they went off the board yesterday. So as far as who is left, you know, it's a good question. Mike, look, I think that at the end of the day, because we saw like Isaiah Rodgers go for a comp pick yesterday, I don't know that they necessarily want to go too hot and heavy after somebody that would hurt them in the comp pick formula game next year, because you don't want to negate any of those potential 3rd or 4th round picks that you're getting back from a Milton Williams and Josh Sweat. And so it would have to be the right situation, someone that was cut. The guy that just stands out to me, and he played outside, was the kid that the Seattle Seahawks just cut, that played for Vic Fangio out in Denver. And that is, I'm blanking on the name right now. Draymond Jones. Thank you. So Draymond Jones, formerly of Ohio State, who played for Fangio in Denver, played on the edge and inside. He's got a Milton Williams skill set. We'll see if he's a guy that they target.
Surprised Isaiah Rodgers. He got $8 million guaranteed. I never got the feeling that the Eagles, I think the Eagles liked him, but they had a number that they liked him at, and certainly wasn't $8 million guaranteed. Are you surprised?
I honestly thought that would be a player that they would probably try and match that offer, just because he gave them such good snaps. When he was in last year in place of Darius Slay, that he would be a guy that they would try and bring back. But that was a decent contract, not one that's, like they could draft over that Minnesota and send Isaiah Rodgers to the bench. So I kind of thought that might be a number that they try and match. But clearly they had a walking away number, the Eagles, and that was a little bit bigger than they were willing to spend.
Darius Slay, it looked like to the Steelers, and then a bunch of insiders came out and said, nah, it's not a done deal yet. And we saw this before. We said goodbye to Slay to Baltimore a couple years ago, and then Big Dom made a phone call. And next thing you know, he's back in Philly. I wonder if he's not coming back here. You can tell his heart is here. And
Yeah, and
honestly, friend, I would like Slay for one more year because then you can really figure out if Ringo is the guy, and you can keep Cooper DeJean in the hybrid role. What are your thoughts on the position?
personally don't hate bringing back Darius Slay for one more year. I do think that there's a definite possibility that could happen. Now, the big thing is that all the insiders came out and said, look, he has not been officially released yet. So this could be a thing where, hey, like his representation was able to work out a contract with Pittsburgh, but now maybe the Eagles are able to trade him to the Steelers and get some draft compensation back. That could be something to watch here, once the new league year hits tomorrow. But that's what I found to be most interesting. It was like, yeah, well, he hasn't officially been released yet.
Or Burks goes to the Bengals again. Just it's a good opportunity for him because he's gonna get a chance to start. But I guess this is an opportunity for this year's Zach Bond that Howie Roseman signs, and or Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Little thin at linebacker. They figured it out last year, but is that where you see the position going, Prem?
Yeah, I don't think you let Oren Burks leave unless you've got some modicum of faith in Jeremiah Trotter Jr. to be able to take that next step to be linebacker 3, right? And look, you're waiting on Nakobe Dean and his health. What is that going to look like? What is his timeline? I would not anticipate and bet money that he was going to be available for week 1 and for the start of the season. My guess is you're looking at what a Sidney Brown timeline was last year, where it's mid-season, he starts the season on PUP kind of situation. But at the end of the day, I think you look at linebacker and say, look, we're not going to go and sign a pricey free agent. We just spent a lot of money on Zach Bond. Let's not, if we're going to bring in anybody, it's going to be someone that's on a low level number or someone that got cut. Because again, you don't want to negate the Isaiah Rodgers contract or anything like that from you lose a 6th round pick to get a 1-year deal at linebacker, right? So I think they will say, let's try and make chicken salad out of this. If it's Jeremiah Trotter versus a low end veteran versus a rookie draft pick, whatever that answer is, we'll hash that out this summer.
Tanner McKee now is your QB2 officially. I think anybody that watched the team knew that he was going to be the better option. You get a 5th round draft pick and DTR for Kenny Pickett from Cleveland. DTR maybe is the 3rd string, probably a practice squad guy, depending if they want to keep 3 quarterbacks or not. But how ready is Tanner McKee for being quarterback number 2?
I mean, he looked like he was ready coming out of his rookie year, and that's what made that the trade for Kenny Pickett so interesting last year. I think that was one of those all right, we believe in Tanner, we do believe in him, but we've got this guy available. Let's go and bring him into the program as well. And the fact that you were able to flip Kenny Pickett a year later, still get a day 3 pick and a player. To me, that was an outstanding move from Howie Roseman and from the Eagles to be able to say, I want 1 year later, you don't get all the same value back, but you get some value back for Kenny Pickett. You're able to elevate McKee. You get a young player in DTR to be your QB3. I think that trade made a ton of sense, and ultimately, it's a good move for the team.
Now that I mean, free agency hasn't even officially started yet. It feels like that we're already what's the second wave of free agency? It's only Tuesday. But what's the agenda for the Eagles now? Howie had set the expectation, I think it was at the combine, saying hey, this may not look like it normally looks like, but we have a plan. Trust us. And I've reminded a couple people that on social media, hey, Howie already told us this was going to kind of look like this. So, what's their agenda right now? Are they going to wait out the first wave of free agency? Now Howie looks for better value on the margins, maybe after the draft. Where do they go from here?
Yeah, I think that you're definitely playing the waiting game a little bit. I think that, and the other big one that we're waiting for the shoe to drop is Dallas Goedert. Is that something where we could see him get traded? And I think that's the patience part of it that Howie was asking for that out in Indianapolis. It's look, it might look a little ugly early on. He didn't say this, but it might look a little ugly early on. But just bear with us here and remember that something that he always harps on is that the offseason is not made in the first 48 hours or 72 hours of free agency. We know the moves that they have made in May and June, July, August, and so this is a team that is always looking for every single way to improve. And I think that they will continue to do that. You mentioned the margins. I mean, Mekhi Becton was signed after the draft last year. He's likely going to turn that around into a $18 to $19 million a year contract here in the next couple days. So I think when you're looking at what the Eagles are look to do, Yeah, they're going to try and find guys off the scrap heap. Can you guarantee that all of them are going to turn into Zach Vaughn and Mekhi Becton? Probably not, but you're just trying to find those different gambles that you can take and see if you can find some surplus value.
All right, 30 seconds. Should the Eagles trade Dallas Goedert? I mean, because I'm surprised that they're actually doing it, but it seems like that the writing's on the wall that they're going to move on unless he takes a pay cut. Maybe this is just leveraging the situation like Josh Sweat. What do you think?
Yeah, to me, I would not, especially before the draft. You'd hate to be able to go into the draft with such a big need at a starting position for a Super Bowl quality roster. That's why I don't think that if they do make a deal, that it wouldn't happen until the draft, unless they just got an offer that blew them away. If a team offered them an early third-round pick or something here this year, your read on it is right. I think it is very similar to what we saw from last year with Josh Sweat, where Dallas wants a number, the Eagles want a number that's here, and they can't quite fit. And I get it from the Eagles standpoint. This is a guy that missed 8 games this year. He missed multiple games last year, multiple games the year before. He's a top 5 tight end from a skill set standpoint when he's healthy. He just hasn't been consistently healthy. And so I get it from both ends of it. So we'll see if they're able to come to some kind of agreement or if they have to make a move.
All right, what's the schedule today? I think I saw on the 12 o'clock you have a draft show, and then you get back into free agent coverage with PHLY Eagles, correct?
Yep. So me, Bo Wolf, and I will be up for the PHLY Eagles draft show. That's at 12 noon. Our viewers can check us out live. We'll be talking through boom bust players in the NFL draft. We'll be taking some questions. We'll do a lot there in the 12 o'clock hour, and then Bo, myself, and Zach will be back for the 2 o'clock show. PHLY Eagles, our normal time slot.
All right, get the coffee ready. Are you a coffee guy or See, I'm already past the coffee for today. This is I'm on the energy drink already at 42 minutes after 8. Fran, thanks, buddy. Great to talk to you.
Appreciate it, John. We'll talk soon.
All right, there he is. Fran Duffy, PHLY. Okay, he does it all. The draft, are you kidding me? Then free agency's over, and we get to talk about the draft. This is amazing. All right, well, there's a lot of other stuff going on in the NFL as well. We'll update you on the moves from yesterday and potential moves today. Also, the 76ers played last night. An excellent loss for the 76ers. And Daryl Morey is such a I'm not allowed to use bad words on here because we're on TV. Good morning, everybody. All right, we're back. It's Philly, Jon Marks, PHLY. Why? All right, so let's talk about Rothman. That's right. Let's do it again. Rothman Orthopedics. Let's talk about Rothman for a second, because I'm a former Rothman patient. Yes, I was discharged. I spent a good 6 weeks after like a year. You know, you do something to yourself and you're like, it'll get better. I've pulled many muscles, and you wait and it gets better. And my shoulder didn't get better, and it just got worse. It didn't get bad enough to where it's like, all right, I have to go to the doctor. But like, I got to a point where I'm trying to reach up and grab cereal out of the top of my pantry for my kids, and I have to get tongs to do it because I have my range of motion's bad. So finally, after like a year, I went to Rothman, right up here in Limerick by me, and I thought I was going to have to get an MRI and all that. Nope. Easily diagnosed. You have a frozen shoulder. Would you like a cortisone shot? No. Okay, here's a script for physical therapy. Right there, Rothman, boom. 6 weeks later, I've been fine since. This is a couple years ago now. It's like 3-4 years ago now. So if you're in pain, right, and you're dealing with major pain, obviously Rothman. For all you people out there that are living with, knee pain after you jog or after you work out, maybe you don't even do it anymore. Any type of physical activity or being active, if your body's giving you problems, you can live pain-free, or you can certainly reduce it. That's why I suggest you go to Rothman, because it's a lot easier than you may think. So obviously, if you need a knee replacement, ankle replacement, you have a major knee injury, whatever it is, they're there for you, because each Rothman doc's laser focused on their specialty. They have a doctor for everything: hip, knee, spine, you name it. There's not just a doctor, there's a team for that body part right in your backyard. 30 plus locations in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. There's a Rothman near you. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to learn more and to make an appointment today. Rothman Orthopedics, specializing in orthopedics and you. rothmanortho.com/PHLY. Hoo-ah. All right. Parks Casino. I'll have to ask Brianna if she could take her pick from what to do at Parks. My casino of choice. Because I know when you think Sparks Casino, you think like, oh, playing blackjack, slots, poker, roulette, all the great table games. Yes, absolutely. Pennsylvania's #1 casino. But what about the state-of-the-art Excite Center? Concerts, MMA, boxing, comedy. There was a magician that was there earlier this month. Really an amazing, amazing venue. So check this out. Country superstar Lee Brice is coming up on March 22nd. Larry the Cable Guy, man, I remember talking about this back in January. He's coming in May. Get your tickets now. Trevor Wallace, Mark Norman, and don't forget dinner and drinks before the show. That's right. Their steakhouse there is amazing. Bamboo Noodle House, their grill that they have. Great dining choices. Make it a date night and then go see a show. ParksCasino.com to buy tickets for everything. Parks Casino, this is how you win. You must be 21. Gambling problem. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. We're back. Should I go see Larry the Cable Guy? I keep talking about it. It feels like a bit at this point. And I don't know if I've ever... I know who Larry the Cable Guy, like I know what he's supposed to be. I don't know if I've ever actually heard his comedy, but you know his name. He was very, very popular. I'm sure he still is. That'd be interesting. See, I haven't recovered from the one time I've been to a comedy show in my life. I should wear the shirt one day so people can make fun of me. But I went to a comedy show with a girlfriend, and we sat, I guess, too close, and like not just an eye view of the comedian, but really I had a bullseye on my chest with what I was wearing. I looked like I was in the old show Hee Haw. It was this brown plaid yellow, like, God, you look at some of the stuff that you wore 15 or 20 years ago, you're like, Jesus, what was I thinking? So I wore that to a comedy show, a pair of jeans and a pair of light blue, like baby blue, New Balance. And, big surprise, I got picked on by the comedian. And I don't think I've been to a comedy show since then. So I don't think Larry the Cable Guy is a bigger venue. I don't think he would pick on me. But I still haven't recovered from that night of comedy, however many years ago. All right, let's talk about the rest of NFL free agency here. Because there are some big moves, and I'm sure I'm missing a few of them. But, I like the big moves. And I also have friends that are Steelers fans, right? So when they traded for DK Metcalf and they gave him a contract that was very surprising, that the Steelers are trading a second-round draft pick and paying a guy $30 million a year, a wide receiver, it's just not a typical Steeler move. And then now there's talk that Slay's going there. Aaron Rodgers, and to me, it looks like this is where he's going. They're working on a deal. Aaron Rodgers to the Steelers could happen. And let me say this. Because unlike some of the other sports, like in baseball, I predominantly care about the Phillies 90%. The rest of Major League Baseball, not that I don't pay attention. I just don't watch a lot of baseball outside of the Phillies, right? I watch everything NFL. I have major interest in what happens across the league. Aaron Rodgers to the Steelers that's an amazing story. To the Jets, not so much. At the time, did you think it? I don't know. I don't know if I liked it. This is a winning organization. And I don't know how cooked Aaron Rodgers is. He looked better at the end of last year, but at least it's a winning organization. But even more importantly than that, the Steelers are actually going for it. They don't give contracts out that they gave the DK Metcalf. They'll re-sign their own guys, but think about how many guys that they allow to leave because they outpriced themselves from the Steelers. They're always draft and develop, draft edge rushers, draft wide receivers. They'll get a running back that they can figure out, whether it's the 3rd round or the 5th round or undrafted, whatever, right? The offensive lines are never really great, but their defenses are always good, right? So they go out now. They're going all in. This is one of these all-in moves where they look at the defense and they say, we have a great defense. Maybe we need to improve it a little bit, but the defense is good. It's been our offense and it's been quarterback that's been a problem. Russell Wilson and Justin Fields both aren't coming back. Certainly Wilson's not coming back if they can sign Aaron Rodgers. So they're again looking to upgrade the position. They drafted Kenny Pickett. That didn't work out. They tried Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. They let both of them leave. Now you got Aaron Rodgers coming in. It's just a great story. Can Aaron Rodgers go to the Berg, where him and Mike Tomlin have always had this love affair for each other? Now he gets to coach him. We'll see how much of a love affair he has dealing with them every day. But Tomlin is great at coaching players and keeping that team, keeping it together. Now, they need better quarterback play. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is good enough at this point in his career, but they could be sneaky depending on what they do. So that's an exciting move. Justin Fields, speaking of Justin Fields to the Jets. Yeah, I mean, there's upside. I like Justin Fields. If I was a team that needed a quarterback that couldn't draft one, I would probably take a flyer. It's short term. But like, they're the Jets, man. So all of a sudden they're going to turn into a playoff team. They have a new head coach, new GM. We'll see. But Justin Fields to the Jets, I give it a half of a thumbs up. Sam Darnold to the Seahawks. Sam Darnold, this was widely expected after they traded Geno Smith. I mean, to me, it's a nothing burger. Sam Darnold is maybe an upgrade over Geno Smith. I mean, I think he sucks. And he looked good for 14 games last year, whatever it was. And then it's like, oh, now you have games that mean something. Oh, there's Sam Darnold that sees ghosts, like he did when he played for the Jets. He's a starting quarterback in the NFL, and they didn't give him a ton of money. So, but like, if this is your answer to trying to win the Super Bowl, it's so hard to get a quarterback. If you have one, it doesn't seem that hard. But if you don't, look at what the Steelers are doing. They tried Kenny Pickett. They tried Justin Fields. They tried Russell Wilson. Now they're going to try Aaron Rodgers. Look at what the Jets are doing. Look what all these teams that are doing. Look at the Giants out. You try to find your quarterback. If you get lucky with having a top pick and you could draft them, oh, you're awesome. But if you have to find one, Eagles got lucky with Jalen Hurts, or you can say that was a good pick. It obviously was. But you know what I mean. So, now the Seahawks are getting Sam Darnold. The Raiders are taking Geno Smith, right? Like, these are moves to try to make your team competitive until you can figure it out. And you hope that Sam Darnold has upside to where he could win a Super Bowl with the Seahawks. That's not going to happen. And then the Commanders are trying to answer for everything that has happened here with the Eagles going to the Super Bowl. So they're adding. Laramie Tunsil, they traded for yesterday from the Texans. Like, you can't go wrong with the offensive line. He's an upgrade on that offensive line. Making a lot of money. You had to give up draft picks to get him. But like, the Commanders right now are in a position where they're trying to build on what they established last year. And in the NFL, you see so many teams, it's not 50%, but it's in between 40 and 50. I haven't looked at it since this year. But teams that make the playoffs in 2024, like 40-45% will miss the playoffs in 2025. So, like, you have your teams that are going to be there. You have some teams that there's a major injury or something happened and then they fall off. And then there's just like, hey, we're here this year for the playoffs. And then they're not there the next year, right? You have those teams. The Commanders are making sure that they're not that team. And they are a perennial team that you can count on. You have the quarterback. They've added to the wide receivers. They're adding to the offensive line. They're adding to the defense. These are all good moves by Washington. They have money. Spend it. And they have. So Washington's not going anywhere. For all the crap that Josh Harris gets as the 76ers owner, and we're going to talk about the Sixers in a second. I actually don't think Josh Harris is a bad owner, and I believe he's going to show that in Washington. That was a bad owner down there with the Commanders, Daniel Snyder, the worst owner in sports. Josh Harris goes down there. He's going to spend money. He's going to hire people and let them do their job. And it's essentially what he's done with the 76ers. Unfortunately, it's so hard. It's so hard to win in the NBA. But, Daniel Snyder's not running the Commanders down there. So they're going to be a good team. And what else what else did I miss here real fast? I also, like, Twitter was down yesterday and people were like having a conniption because they're like, oh my God, how am I going to get my breaking news? How much things have changed with getting instant, immediate answers to everything, especially breaking sports news. So that was that. Jonathan Allen goes to the Vikings. He could have been a potential target of the Eagles. At defensive tackle, Khalil Mack, who I know a lot of Eagles fans were thinking like, hey, maybe he could get signed for a year and come to the Eagles. So he re-signed with the Chargers for a year, making a lot of money. Too many guys are making a lot of money. The Eagles aren't going to have money to spend. I think Fran talked about it right there. They're not going to have $15 million to spend on a player for a year. So they're going to have to, maybe they have one of those players that they can sign for a short term for a year and then you cook the contract by doing what Howie does to it. But anyway, so stay tuned. Ant's coming up here in a couple minutes, and then the guys are back this afternoon for all your free agent news right here on PHLY. All right, so you should always subscribe to the PHLY Daily. It's available at allphly.com. Everything you need to know. Rich Hoffman Jr., I'm telling you, man, this dude works harder than I do. Putting together PHLY Daily. Amazing, amazing. It's your sports page. It's your morning sports page. I look at it every day. He makes sure he gets it out before our show so we can promote it. And you can get it. It's free. They send it right to your inbox at allphly.com. But, like a recap of everything with the Eagles. The 76ers managed to lose the game last night. There you go. And not only did they lose, but some other teams that they're chasing for bad records won last night. So a productive night when it comes to the 76ers. This after Daryl Morey got on some Ask Me Anything. See, he was doing some interview, and he was talking about Sixers fans, and the context of it may have been lost on me, but he's essentially talking about Philadelphia sports fans' anger and how they were angry after the Celtics and they weren't as angry after the Knicks and blah, 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 blah. Daryl Morey, I can't wait until you're no longer the general manager or the president of basketball operations, whatever we're going to call you, of the 76ers. I look forward to the day that I don't have to hear you not take responsibility, not even want to take responsibility. When you're a player on the team, you can't affect anything, or like whatever happened before you got here happened before you got here. Same thing with the coach, same thing with the president and the owner and everybody else. However, the fans don't care about that because we're looking at the franchise of the 76ers. That's what we're looking at, the franchise of the 76ers. The Sixers have been to one NBA final in the last 41 years. Since 1983, they won a title in 83. They've been to one Eastern Conference Finals since then. That's over 40 years. It's been over 20 years since they've been to a conference final and an NBA final that they lost. We went through the process. We went through watching these teams when they were trying to lose, when they were taking on bad players and bad contracts to get additional draft picks. We understood it. We were for the cause, man. We were for the cause. We wrote it out, all right? Because we knew what was possible on the other side of that. And that's why we did it. And that's why a lot of us said, you know what? No, this will be worth it. Well, listen, we can debate whether or not it was worth it or not. I don't care to do that right now. I just want to have this message for Daryl Morey. 76ers fans have lived through this. But one of my first sports memories is the Sixers winning a title in 1983. I loved Maurice Cheeks, one of my favorite Philadelphia athletes ever. I loved Andrew Toney. Obviously, Doc, Moses Malone, Mark Ivoroni, Bobby Jones, right? Like, I'm a longtime 76er fan. Not so much anymore because of you. Because you don't look at it like you should, which is, yeah, you weren't responsible for bad years of the 76ers, but you've also come in here needing to be the answer to get us over the top, and you haven't done that. You made some good moves. You're not a terrible GM. Your mission was to get this team to an NBA Finals and to win a championship, and they are further away now than they've been since the process, brother. And it looks hopeless. And now the talk is that you may not be back. And shout out to everybody that's out there watching on TV. Switch over to allphly.com to watch the rest of the program. But you are further away than you've been since really we realized this team had a chance to win, which was a year or two in the Joel Embiid when you had the real core. There's nothing to look forward to this. I like Maxey. I like some of the young players. Quentin Grimes looks like he can play or whatever. Again, like Morey's not an idiot. But when you're in that position, the only answer should be, we got to figure out how to get and win a championship. We got to figure out how to get to an Eastern Conference final. We got to figure out how to get past the second round of the playoffs. But that's not his mentality at all. He's not. He mocks fans who are unhappy with Tobias Harris because he sucks, and Tobias Harris thinks he's this great player, and comes out and he says that, like about the whole the cookie crumble, and they're casual fans and all this other stuff, and Daryl Morey takes a Twitter picture outside of a cookie place. Like, yeah, that pisses me off. You know why? Because you're rubbing my face in 76ers poop. We've all been here through this stuff. You have to take ownership of that and have urgency to get us back. Your plan hasn't worked. That's fine. Man, don't act like an a-hole, which is what you're doing, right? I can't wait for him to be out of here. He's going to be out of here. This isn't working. This isn't going to work. Josh Harris knows it. Stephen A. Smith is kind of letting you know that Josh Harris is not happy with everything that's transpired. We'll see. The writing's on the wall for him to be out of here, and I can't wait. He is a snake oil salesman, and bye-bye, Daryl Morey. I can't wait for you to be out of here. All right, switch on over to Anthony right now. He is live until 11 a.m. Noon, and again, you can watch all of these on YouTube at your convenience. Noon, the draft show live with Fran and Bo, and then they'll take you right into the big day 2 of the tampering period, NFL and Eagles free agency. So don't go anywhere. We are here. Brianna Savarino Bray, thank you very much, dear. Coming up, Anthony, switch over to him. Thanks for everybody watching. We're back tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.